Row from MSG. Today we have a special guest with us, Megan Hannam from Hannam Design. What we wanted to talk about today is how your nonprofit office, or really it could be any small business office, um, could maybe be a little better conducive to working. I think a lot of times when you have things in your office, you're chucking things around, you're not caring about what things look like, or maybe in the nonprofit world, you're not putting money towards making your office feel more like home. Megan's going to give us some tips on how you can make your office more workable. Thanks for joining us today, Megan.
Welcome. How are you, Chuck?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I can't complain too much. I get to talk with you about offices, right? Now, now before we actually talk about what offices could be look like and how they could be improved, um, maybe you could tell me in your line of work when you're designing offices, have you noticed a trend as far as people working from home and people working from the office now that they had a taste of working from home? Um, where do you see that trend going?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked that. I was just, kind of doing some legwork on seeing where data was and what people were doing in respect to COVID-19. And, we are starting to see, obviously, the trend. People were forced to work from home, but now people are enjoying working from home. Companies had to figure it out really quick, how to allow their employees to work from home. Typically the statistics were showing about 31% of people would work in the home environment. And now we're looking at seeing something more like a 40%. So, even as we start to, maybe the economy starts to open back up and businesses start to open, we're still going to see people working from home because we were able to make a shift that we might not have ever done before.
So when I ask you some of these upcoming questions, it's not just about how you can make your office, look better, feel better um, at work, but maybe it's for some people making their home office situation better.
Yes, yep, exactly. I mean, we're going to shift from this idea of some of these office buildings that used to hold, I don't know, 7,000 people. If we're looking at 50% capacity, you're going to start to see that's 3,500 people are now going to be in a space that was meant for 7,000. And so it's going to drastically change, not just in the commercial workspace, but then what are those people doing at home? They're not going to continue to limp along and work from their home kitchen island. They're going to start to demand actual spaces in the home. And there's a lot more that goes into it than just finding a desk and plunking a chair down and starting to work. I think you probably have experienced it yourself, even as you start to work in new environments, that it's more than just about having a good desk, having a good computer. There's a lot of different aspects that go into that built environment that surrounds any office that I think needs to be looked at on a professional level.
Well, one of the things that came to my mind, and because when I think of nonprofit directors, they're usually, and I'm not just saying this because I used to be one, because it's going to sound the opposite of what I'm about to say, but they're usually kind of humble people that are happy to just make ends meet and do stretch that dollar. And so a lot of times you'll be in this office that might have been even a makeshift closet, and because of
Yes.
that, you have this lighting of like maybe some fluorescent lights that are blinking because they're going out and stuff like that. How important is lighting in an office, and what could people do to help improve that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Chuck. And also just something that you bring up on a broad scale of is, it's not just a frivolous manner. I mean, having a really nice office is not, I'm not talking about it on a beautiful side of things, but I'm talking about it on a functional side of things. And so, yeah, when you're stuck down in that kind of old janitor's closet and you're trying to be productive in a space that has poor air quality, dull lighting, you really aren't going to be able to provide the output of what that company's going to need. So I think, starting to shift and starting to understand that, I think even when my clients work with me, they learn very quickly it's not a frivolous manner, but it's truly an investment in their work or their home. And that means an investment in their life. So I believe on back to your question about the lighting, we spend 90% of our lives indoors. and we really are meant to be out in nature. And so what's happening is now that we're going inside and we're being indoors and we're in front of computer screens, the circadian rhythm of our way of life is getting impacted and changed. And that has to do with our productivity too. So we're starting to see studies are showing people are overstressed, they're lacking sleep, their mental state is not well. And a lot of the studies are showing that lighting impacts that. So, you mentioned fluorescent lighting. It's a really harsh, cold light that, maybe we can just change the tone of the lighting, have something a little lower, have something a little less harsh on our eyes. We could go the next step up and try to find a light bulb or some sort of fixture that's going to allow, lighting that mimics daylight. And so then we can start to kind of get back to nature the way our body was intended to be. And so with that lighting, you're going to see better productivity at work. You're going to see better sleep cycles. And I think it's just a win-win for not just the organization and not just the employer, but the person themselves.
Well, something that you brought up just a second or two ago, which never really crossed my mind before, but I guess it makes sense, is you brought up air quality. And, what are your thoughts on air quality then, and what are ways people could pay attention to that more?
Yeah, I think, that's something that it's so hard because we don't see it. So we just think, if we don't see it, it's not affecting us. But I know I personally am kind of doing a study on myself and with my husband as well in our own home. We installed an air scrubber. And so we are now living in an environment with completely pure air. So we're just living and breathing clean and clear air. And we just ourselves have experienced, again, sleeping better. My husband is sensitive to allergens. He's not having watery eyes or stuffy nose. And we saw that instantly. And so I think with air quality, again, it's a well-being aspect and making somebody feel better. I think oftentimes, so people don't realize the importance of indoor air quality until they're in an environment where it's really poor. And so if you can kind of think of those spaces that you've been where it's stuffy and it's hard to breathe or your eyes start to itch, I think those are things that you start to realize the importance of the indoor air that's around you.
Now, I don't expect you to know this answer off the top of your head, but in case you did, if somebody did want to have like a little portable air purifier or something in their office, like what is the cost of something like that?
They range, and there's all sorts of systems. I think they can range anywhere from $250 for more of a portable device. And I've done things with that where it's a portable device that fits in a car or just a single room. Up to a full home system can, be 1,000 and upwards. So there are simple approaches to it. And I think you mentioned one with just doing a filtration system in the room that you're in the most is really great. Or taking it to the top level, as I know I have in my own home, because I wanted to see what that was going to do. And there's a lot of different ways that you can, get to the level that you want by working with a professional.
Well, something when I think of with an office, and it's almost the opposite of what you just said at the beginning, where it's not just about this, but I do think of furniture, and I want to be comfortable. I want to make sure that, and I know something that we've talked about before is like one small tip that you've given is give things the butt test, right? Make sure that you actually check out furniture and try it out before you actually buy it. But when it comes to making sure that your body just feels right in that office and with the furniture, what are some other suggestions that come to mind to you?
Yeah, I think, the best way to equate that, and I've talked about it before, but is if you think about those comfortable pair of pants that you just slip on, normally they're your weekend jeans or whatever, your favorite pair of jeans, you put them on, they're comfortable, they fit, they just feel good. And that's how furniture should be. I really, truly believe that. People get really caught up in wanting their space to look like a magazine article, or to look like, when they walk into a furniture showroom, and they want their spaces to look like that. And that's great. And I can definitely, there's clients that come to me for that. But I first like to peel it back, and I like to learn about them and their body, and their need, to make sure that we get them furniture that's going to actually fit them. Because I think it feels like that really good pair of pants, whereas we've all worn those clothes that are super uncomfortable, and we get to the end of the day and it's just, why am I wearing this again? Uncomfortable, and you're cranky and you're ornery the whole day. And that's exactly what the wrong type of chair could do in an office space. And it's going to impede on people's work and their productivity and the company's bottom line. And I think in your case, in the work you're doing with, nonprofits and municipalities, I mean, again, people are going to try to get by on the lowest budget possible. But if they're not investing in their workers and the people that are trying to raise capital and make the money and make the changes in their environments, they're not going to get anywhere. So I think, it's an investment. And so it might be a pretty looking chair, it might not be, but I think it needs to fit you, and offer some flexibility in that case.
And not only that, but I would assume that there's plenty of studies out there that show that the type of furniture that makes you comfortable. Also, you need to make sure that it's set up in a way that your body is sitting up straight, that you're at a keyboard at the right height. And any suggestions as far as that goes?
Yeah, and I think a big thing for that is just having the flexibility. So having a space that either, where you're working yourself in a space that's got multiple options. So you can go and be, at a sitting level, you could go and work at a standing level. I think having those options is really nice. I have that in my own office. I can be at a seated 90-degree position. I often love working from the floor. It's probably very painful to some people, but to me, that's very comfortable. And so being able to go from literally sitting on the floor with a low desk, to a standing position, I think in anything in between, because our bodies feel different every single day. And so we shouldn't have to force them to be in a position that's uncomfortable, because again, it's going to impact our well-being, and it's going to impact our ability to be able to work and produce in the way we want to.
Well, one last question I wanted to ask you is,
Yeah.
I know you believe that an office should be someone's refuge, and kind of a connection to that is, not only does it have to be a refuge, but even acoustically, it just needs to be comfortable in that aspect as well. Maybe you could share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, it's a tough thing, because a lot of people, especially at home, they were, trying to find a place that they could get away from everything else. They had kids at home, they had a spouse at home. So they were trying to get, an office that was away from all that chaos. You're right, acoustically, on a noise level, that's important. But as far as a space of refuge goes, whether it's your actual office or not, but making sure that it's more that you can actually pull back from the work you're doing. And if it's your immediate office that provides that, or if it's a space you go that's close by. But that's important too, because society and our culture and the way that we operate has made us feel like we've got to be on 24/7. And so, how can we maybe remove ourselves from that for even 5 or 10 minutes? So acoustically is the number one way we can do that. And so can we shut the shades? Can we shut the door? Or can we put noise canceling headphones on? Or could we go into a quiet room just to get away from that? And I think that's really important, because our work environment, it seems kind of odd, because as much as we want to be relaxed and comfortable, we do need to have our stress levels up a little bit, just because that's where we're going to produce the best. So I was taught, we kind of look at it as a rainbow effect. And so, and this is going a little further than your question, but I think it's really fascinating, and it helps me when I'm thinking about the built environment. But knowing whether it's your office or your home, or just your general place of work, our stress hormones need to be at that low level of the rainbow when we're wanting to sleep and we're wanting to relax. but we need to increase that when we want to be productive. And so making sure that it stays at a healthy level, because the minute we get to this side of that rainbow, it starts to become chronic. And so we never want an environment to become so high stimulated that we're chronically exhausted or we're chronically fatigued. And so acoustically is one way to look at that. So thinking about our workplaces, and if we have a large space that's open to a lot of employees or people that come and go, how can we create sound barriers? Or whether it's flooring, how can we maybe put some soft flooring down to help with echoes? But acoustically, that plays a huge impact on our work environment in our office, definitely.
Well, I love the idea that you threw out of wearing noise canceling headphones. Never even thought about that. Such a simple fix.
Yeah, and I think, that just goes to show, and I think just like the work that you're going in and doing for clients is you're really offering levels and layers and looking at things on all these different areas. And that's exactly what I like to do when I go into environments. So taking more of this holistic approach, and starting to say, okay, this might work with one and this is going to work for another. If it's a large company and they've already invested in this huge open style of working environment, the last thing they're going to want to do is invest a ton more money into putting back up walls and making cubicles again. But how can we design maybe some systems and structures that allow them to achieve those same goals? And one of them might be noise canceling headphones. Or it might say, there's quiet hours from 10 to 2, and then there's open hours from these times. And so, we can start to actually design structures and systems that help them. And it's not necessarily a finished good or a piece of furniture, but it's helping them to design something that's going to still work for them.
Well, when you think of that nonprofit director, or maybe it's a mayor somewhere at a city or whatever, a city administrator, or if you could finish this off with just like one, if people do nothing else to change their office around, if there's like this one little thing they could do to make their office a better workspace environment for them, what would you tell them to do?
I probably would say tidiness. I think it's the quickest and easiest and simplest thing that anybody can do. And no matter what somebody says, they might say, no, I work fine in a hectic environment. I think tidiness is kind of that little fire starter. And so, being able to close down your day and put your work away physically also helps people to mentally turn things on and off. And so that's where we start to take that built environment and use it as medicine to help us in our everyday life. And so I think tidiness would be my response to that.
Well, between the different interiors of like homes and offices and furniture, and you just name it, you've been doing this professionally for a number of years. If people wanted to use your services or wanted to ask you about tips or whatever, what is the best way that they can learn more about what you do?
I would say to go to my webpage. That's the best landing spot that I have. But otherwise, reaching out, phone call, email, I've got all of that right on my website. Because again, I build my work and what I'm able to do off of a relationship. And so getting to know somebody and getting to know what their goals are will help me align with them. And so I would say to start there, but then to not be afraid to reach out.
So your website address would be?
It's hannamdesign.com. So HANNAM design.com.
Okay, so today everyone got the chance to learn about how having an office that's set up properly, and not just what you put up with, but set up properly, will not only make for a better environment for you visually, and also maybe your body feeling better, but also it might make you more productive at work as well. So it's not just something that you're throwing money at wastefully. It just changes everything, like you said, very holistic. So thanks for being our guest today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck.
So Everyone else, we'll see you next week with MSG.